Hi, welcome to our channel where we share the most intriguing stories. When the Watsons inherited their serene lakefront cabin, they believed it would remain a sanctuary of family memories. But when their nosy new neighbor, Karen Rivers, began crossing boundaries, literally and figuratively, they never imagined she would attempt the ultimate betrayal, stealing their home. The Watson family cherished their lakefront property nestled along the serene waters of Emerald Lake in North Carolina. This rustic cabin, a testament to 3 generations of tradition, was more than just a vacation spot. It was the heart of the family's history. Built in the 1940s by John Watson's grandfather, the 2-bedroom cabin boasted charm that modern houses couldn't replicate. With its weathered wooden beams, creaking floors, and a large porch overlooking the sparkling lake, the property exuded a timeless warmth that made it irreplaceable. For John Watson, a 42-year-old software engineer, the cabin was a sacred retreat. His job often consumed his weekdays, leaving little time to unwind. But every summer, he, his wife Emily, and their 5-year-old son Michael made the 90-minute drive from their bustling suburban neighborhood to this tranquil haven. Here, the family spent days fishing from their private dock, paddling kayaks on the calm lake, and sitting by crackling evening fires as the stars painted the night sky. The cabin sat on a generous plot of land, surrounded by towering pines and thick woods, giving the family privacy. The private dock, extending gracefully into the water, was a prized feature, a place where John often sat with Michael, teaching him how to fish, just as his father had once taught him. This dock was not merely a structure. It was a bridge between generations, a physical reminder of the enduring legacy of the Watson family. However, this idyllic retreat was not immune to the encroachment of modernity. A few years ago, a new residential development had sprung up on the other side of the lake. Emerald Estates was filled with cookie-cutter homes, neatly trimmed lawns, and, notably, a homeowners association that ruled with an iron fist. The Watson cabin, predating these suburban sprawl developments, stood proudly apart from the conformity of the estates. About a year ago, a new resident moved into a house not far from the Watsons' property, a woman named Karen Rivers. She was a trim, middle-aged woman with a sharp tone and an even sharper gaze. At first, her presence seemed benign. She waved politely from her driveway, smiled at Emily during casual encounters in town, and even inquired about good spots to dine nearby. But subtle hints of entitlement began to surface. "It's a pity your beautiful dock is so underused," she once remarked when Emily mentioned their infrequent visits due to John's demanding work schedule. Another time, Karen quipped, "A house like yours deserves to be lived in full-time." John brushed these comments off as small talk. Yet, there was something in Karen's tone, a mix of envy and an overstepping curiosity, that left him uneasy. Little did he know, these seemingly harmless remarks were harbingers of the storm that would soon upend their peaceful haven. It didn't take long for Karen Rivers to transform from a seemingly polite neighbor into an unsettling presence. Over the next few months, her casual comments turned into increasingly intrusive behavior. She began showing up unannounced, often catching Emily off guard while she was tending to the flower beds or while John was securing the dock for the season. "Hi there," Karen would say, her ever-present clipboard in hand. "Just thought I'd pop by. This place is such a gem. Don't you think it deserves a little more attention? You know, someone who can really make the most of it." Her words dripped with a mix of false charm and overt judgment. The intrusions didn't stop at unsolicited visits. Karen made a habit of lingering by their dock, often sitting on the edge with a coffee mug in hand, as if she owned the place. John and Emily, hoping to avoid unnecessary conflict, initially tried to ignore her behavior, though it was hard to miss her watching their every move. One day, Karen crossed an unspoken line. While the Watsons were enjoying a peaceful lunch on the porch, they spotted her leading 2 strangers across their property, pointing out the dock and the view like a realtor giving a tour. John walked down to confront her, his tone firm but measured. "Karen, what's going on here?" he asked, gesturing to the 2 people standing awkwardly by the water. "Oh, John," Karen replied, her smile unshaken. "These are some friends of mine. They've just moved into Emerald Estates and were curious about the lake access. I thought I'd show them how lovely your property is." "This is private property," John said, his patience thinning. You can't just bring people here without our permission." Karen waved a dismissive hand. "Oh, don't be so uptight. We're all neighbors here. It's not like I'm doing any harm." The tension simmered as Karen's intrusions became bolder. She began dropping remarks that hinted at more than just casual interest in the property. "It's such a shame this dock isn't used more often," she said one afternoon, standing too close for comfort. "Imagine all the memories someone could make here year-round. If you ever decide to sell, I'd be happy to take it off your hands." John responded tersely, "This house isn't for sale, Karen. It's been in my family for generations." Karen's expression darkened, though she quickly masked it with a saccharine smile. "Well, if you ever change your mind, you know where to find me." The breaking point came a few weeks later. John installed a security camera near the dock after noticing items were being moved. Chairs slightly shifted, fishing rods out of place. Reviewing the footage confirmed his suspicions. Karen had been using their dock while they were away, often bringing guests who treated the property like their own. When confronted, Karen didn't even try to deny it. "Honestly, John, if you're not going to make full use of this beautiful place, why does it matter if I do? It's not like anyone's getting hurt." Her brazen attitude left John and Emily stunned. They realized Karen wasn't just a nosy neighbor. She was someone willing to trample boundaries without hesitation. This was no longer just an annoyance. It was the start of something far more troubling. Karen's behavior spiraled from intrusive to outright disrespectful in the weeks that followed. It began with her increasingly frequent appearances on the Watsons' property. While John and Emily tried to ignore her at first, it was becoming impossible. She now treated their dock and yard as an extension of her own home, often lounging with a book or bringing over what she called small gatherings. One Saturday morning, as John and Michael prepared their boat for a day on the lake, they found Karen sitting in one of their Adirondack chairs on the dock, chatting animatedly with two of her friends. The trio had brought a picnic basket and were helping themselves to wine and sandwiches, completely unbothered by the Watsons' presence. "Karen," John said firmly, his patience finally snapping. "This isn't a public space. You can't just waltz onto our property like this." Karen barely glanced up, waving her hand dismissively. "Oh, John, don't make such a fuss. We're neighbors. Neighbors share, don't they? It's such a lovely spot. It's a shame not to enjoy it." John was livid, but he knew arguing wouldn't help. Instead, he escorted Michael back inside and decided it was time to escalate matters. He filed a formal complaint with local authorities, detailing Karen's repeated trespassing and her blatant disregard for their warnings. Karen's response was as audacious as ever. 2 days later, Emily found flyers taped to mailboxes around the neighborhood. The flyers accused the Watsons of hoarding valuable lakefront access and being uncooperative neighbors. Karen had even started spreading rumors that John had verbally agreed to let her use the dock, an outright lie. But Karen wasn't content to stop at slander. One afternoon, while the Watsons were running errands, their security cameras captured Karen hosting what appeared to be a full-blown barbecue on their dock. Strangers roamed their yard, kids splashed in the water, and chairs were dragged across the lawn. When John confronted her the next day with video evidence, Karen didn't flinch. Instead, she doubled down. "You're making such a big deal out of nothing," she said. "If you're so territorial about the dock, maybe you shouldn't have left it unused for weeks at a time. Honestly, it's selfish." Her blatant entitlement and refusal to respect boundaries infuriated John and Emily. It was now clear that Karen wasn't just being thoughtless. She was deliberately pushing limits, testing how far she could go. John decided to send Karen a formal cease and desist letter through a lawyer, hoping it would put an end to her antics. But Karen wasn't intimidated. Instead, she seemed emboldened, making cryptic remarks like, "We'll see who really has the rights to this place soon enough." The Watsons could no longer dismiss her as a nuisance. Karen was becoming a genuine threat to their peace, and perhaps even their property itself. After a long 2-month absence, the Watsons eagerly returned to their lake house, anticipating a quiet weekend surrounded by nature. As they approached the driveway, something immediately felt wrong. The usually serene property was anything but tranquil. Cars lined the gravel road leading to the cabin, SUVs, sedans, and even a convertible. From a distance, they could see lights blazing inside the house and hear faint music. John parked the car at the edge of the property, his brow furrowing. "Stay here," he told Emily and Michael, but Emily, clutching her phone, shook her head. I'm coming with you, she insisted. As they walked closer, the scene became clearer. Strangers mingled outside, chatting loudly with drinks in hand. Some leaned against their porch railing, while others laughed by the fire pit that John himself had built. It looked like a full-blown party. "What the hell is going on?" John muttered. Emily had already started recording on her phone. "This isn't just trespassing," she whispered. "This is insane." John didn't wait. He pushed past the guests, who barely acknowledged him, and opened the front door. Inside, more people were gathered, some dancing, others sitting casually on their furniture as if it were their own. Plates of food and empty bottles cluttered the countertops. And there, standing by the window with a wine glass in hand, was Karen Rivers. For a moment, she didn't notice them. She was mid-conversation, gesturing grandly to a group of friends. But when she caught sight of John and Emily, her face froze. Panic flickered in her eyes, but she quickly masked it with a forced smile. "Oh, John, Emily, I didn't expect you back so soon," Karen said, her voice unnervingly cheerful. John's anger flared. "What the hell are you doing in my house, Karen?" Karen stiffened, but her smile didn't waver. "Your house? John, I think you're confused. This is my property now. I bought it weeks ago." John's jaw dropped. "What are you talking about? We never sold this house." Karen's expression hardened. "Yes, you did. We signed the paperwork. It's official. Now, if you wouldn't mind leaving, you're disturbing my guests." Emily, still recording, stepped forward. "Show us these so-called papers, Karen." Karen faltered, but held her ground. "I don't have to show you anything. You're trespassing on my property." Then, in a shocking move, she reached for Emily's phone, attempting to snatch it away. "Stop filming!" Karen snapped. Emily quickly pulled back, clutching her phone tightly. "Touch me again, and I'll have you arrested," she said coldly. Karen's panic was evident now. She glanced around, noticing her guests staring, some clearly uncomfortable with the scene unfolding. It was obvious she had lied to them about owning the property, and her ruse was crumbling. John pointed toward the door. "Everyone out. Now you're all trespassing." Karen's guests hesitated, exchanging uneasy looks, but one by one they began to leave, muttering apologies. "You said this was your place," one man accused Karen as he walked past her. As the last of the partygoers filed out, Karen stood frozen in the middle of the living room, her earlier bravado gone. John stepped closer, his voice low but firm. "The police are on their way. I suggest you start explaining yourself." Karen's confidence cracked entirely. She muttered something incoherent about misunderstandings and assumptions. But it was clear she had no defense. John's only focus now was ensuring she faced justice for this outrageous violation. The sound of approaching sirens signaled the turning point. This wasn't just a conflict anymore. It was the beginning of Karen's downfall. As the flashing red and blue lights illuminated the Watsons' once peaceful lakefront property, the tension reached its peak. 2 patrol cars pulled into the driveway, their tires crunching over the gravel. John stood at the front door, his arms crossed, while Emily continued recording from the porch. Inside, Karen remained frozen in place, her face pale under the warm glow of the house's lighting. 2 officers stepped out, one older with a stern expression, and the other younger, surveying the scene with a mixture of curiosity and caution. The senior officer, badge reading Lieutenant Reynolds, approached John. "We received a call about a disturbance and possible trespassing. Can you explain what's going on here, sir?" Reynolds asked. "Absolutely," John replied, gesturing toward Karen. "This woman broke into our home through a party and is now claiming she owns the property. I have proof that this house belongs to me." Karen immediately stepped forward, her voice shrill. "That's not true. I bought this house weeks ago. These people are trespassing on my property, and I want them removed." Lieutenant Reynolds raised an eyebrow and turned to John. "Do you have any documentation to support your claim, sir?" "Of course," John said, pulling a folder from his bag. Inside were copies of the deed, property tax records, and even video footage from their security cameras showing Karen hosting unauthorized gatherings on their dock in prior weeks. Meanwhile, the younger officer, observing Karen's increasingly defensive body language, asked, "Ma'am, do you have any proof of ownership? A deed? A bill of sale? Anything?" Karen hesitated, her eyes darting toward her purse. She produced a set of papers with a triumphant flourish. "Here's the signed agreement," she declared, handing them over. Reynolds took one glance at the documents and frowned. The notary stamp was uneven and pixelated, the signatures mismatched, and the formatting blatantly incorrect. He exchanged a look with his partner before turning back to Karen. "Ma'am, these documents are clearly forged. Where did you get these?" Reynolds asked, his tone sharpening. Karen's mask of confidence crumbled further. I don't know what you're talking about. I paid for this house in cash." "It's mine," she shouted, her voice tinged with desperation. John, his frustration barely contained, stepped forward. "Officer, this is ridiculous. She's been harassing us for months. First, she was trespassing on our dock, and now she's broken into our home and is lying about owning it. Check the locks. She's even tried to change them." Reynolds nodded to his partner, who went to inspect the locks. Moments later, he returned, holding up tools and spare locks left on the counter. "Looks like someone was in the middle of changing them," he confirmed. Emily chimed in, playing back her phone recording of Karen trying to snatch her device and demanding they leave. "And here's her on video trying to assault me and lie about owning the house." Karen, realizing the mounting evidence against her, snapped. "You're all against me. I've done nothing wrong. This house should be mine. It's wasted on them. They're never here, and I've made better use of it than they ever have." Her outburst hung in the air, the officers silently exchanging glances. Reynolds finally spoke. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for criminal trespassing, attempted fraud, and providing false documents. Put your hands behind your back." "No, you can't do this," Karen screamed, struggling as the officers cuffed her. "This isn't fair. They don't deserve this house." As Karen was led to the patrol car, she continued shouting incoherent justifications, her voice fading as the car doors slammed shut. John and Emily stood on the porch, a mix of relief and exhaustion washing over them. Reynolds approached one last time. "We'll need you to come down to the station to file a full report. Based on what we've seen tonight, this isn't her first time pulling a stunt like this. We'll dig into her history." "Thank you, Lieutenant," John said, his voice firm but grateful. "I just want to make sure this never happens again." With Karen gone and the officers wrapping up their investigation, John and Emily finally walked back into their home. It no longer felt invaded. It felt reclaimed. The battle was far from over, but they had taken the first crucial step in holding Karen accountable for her audacity and deceit. Karen's arrest marked the beginning of a legal storm. As the case progressed, shocking details of her actions and past schemes began to surface, painting a picture far more sinister than John and Emily had imagined. The Watsons, determined to protect their home and legacy, filed formal charges against Karen for trespassing, fraud, and property damage. At the same time, prosecutors uncovered that Karen had a history of pulling similar stunts in other areas. Investigators found complaints from homeowners in Florida and California who accused Karen of forging documents to claim ownership of properties she didn't own. In most cases, she had settled out of court, avoiding serious consequences. The trial became a highly anticipated event in the small lakefront community, with many residents attending to hear the details of Karen's outrageous actions. On the first day, the prosecution laid out an overwhelming amount of evidence. Video footage from Emily's phone and the security cameras showed Karen hosting parties, attempting to change locks, and boldly claiming ownership of the property. The fake documents Karen had presented to the police were scrutinized by forensic experts who testified that the signatures were forged, and the notary stamp was a poorly executed counterfeit. Adding to her downfall, several of Karen's party guests testified against her, admitting that she had lied to them about owning the house. Karen's defense attorney tried to argue that she genuinely believed she had purchased the property and that her actions stemmed from a misunderstanding. But her defiance during the arrest and her history of similar incidents in other states left little room for doubt about her intent. When it was John's turn to testify, he recounted the months of harassment and trespassing, emphasizing the emotional toll Karen's actions had taken on his family. "This isn't just about property," John told the court. "It's about protecting our home, our sanctuary, from someone who thought they could take what wasn't theirs simply because they wanted it." The jury deliberated for less than a day. Their verdict was unanimous. Karen was found guilty on all counts, including criminal trespassing, attempted fraud, and providing false documentation. The judge, clearly unimpressed with Karen's brazenness, announced her sentence: 2 years in prison, a $100,000 fine to cover damages and legal fees, and a restraining order preventing her from coming within 1,000 feet of the Watsons' property. Karen's reaction was predictably dramatic. She wailed in protest, claiming the system was unfair and that she was the true victim. But her theatrics only reinforced the court's view of her as manipulative and self-serving. As John and Emily left the courthouse that day, they felt a mix of exhaustion and relief. Justice had been served, and the shadow of Karen Rivers was finally lifted from their lives. However, the trial had also sent a powerful message to the community. No one was above the law, and entitled behavior had its limits. Karen's conviction sent shockwaves through the local community. The once bold woman who had manipulated her way into the Watsons' lives and tried to steal their home now faced the consequences of her actions in full. With her sentencing finalized, Karen was taken into custody to serve her 2-year prison term. The $100,000 fine she was ordered to pay left her financially devastated. To cover the cost, Karen was forced to sell her home in Emerald Estates. The house was quickly purchased by a quiet, respectful couple who made it clear they valued boundaries. A stark contrast to their predecessor, Karen's actions also drew the attention of authorities in other states. Investigators reopened cases in Florida and California, where her similar schemes had been brushed under the rug. These pending investigations meant Karen's legal troubles were far from over. Meanwhile, the Watsons began repairing the damage Karen had caused, both physically and emotionally. They replaced locks, reinforced their security system, and added new cameras. The fine Karen paid helped cover these costs, allowing them to make their property even more secure. Her downfall became a cautionary tale in the community. Neighbors started discussing property rights more seriously, ensuring their own documents were secure and accessible. Karen's audacity had left a mark, but it also strengthened the bonds among the residents who rallied around the Watsons. For John and Emily, the sight of Karen being escorted out of the courtroom in handcuffs was the closure they needed. Their home was theirs again, untouched, secure, and safe from the grasp of entitlement. With Karen Rivers out of their lives, the Watsons finally felt a sense of peace settle over their beloved lakefront home. The once unsettling memories of her trespassing and schemes were now overshadowed by the improvements they made to secure their property and protect their family legacy. John and Emily used Karen's $100,000 restitution to reinforce their home in ways they had always intended. The new state-of-the-art security system, complete with motion sensors and live alerts to their phones, became a standard for neighboring properties. They also installed reinforced doors and updated their dock with a more durable design, ensuring it could withstand both the elements and any future intruders. The trial left a lasting impact on the community. The Watson story circulated throughout Emerald Lake, serving as a reminder of the importance of property rights and the need for vigilance against entitlement and fraud. Real estate agents began advising clients to safeguard their property documents, and many neighbors took steps to establish stronger security measures. Beyond physical security, the experience transformed the Watsons' relationship with their neighbors. Once distant, the lakefront community grew closer, organizing regular gatherings and creating a neighborhood watch program to ensure no one else would fall victim to similar schemes. The Watsons even became friends with the new owners of Karen's former home, who joined in their annual lake cookouts and shared their appreciation for the beauty of the area. For John, the experience was a harsh but valuable lesson. Standing your ground isn't just about protecting what's yours, he reflected one evening, sitting with Emily on the porch as Michael played near the dock. It's about showing people that no matter how bold or entitled someone is, they can't just take what doesn't belong to them. The legacy of their home felt stronger than ever. The cabin wasn't just a retreat anymore. It was a symbol of resilience, family unity, and justice. Old family photos now hung in the living room, chronicling the cabin's history and the love that had sustained it for generations. As for Karen, her name faded from local conversations. Once a disruptive force, she had become nothing more than a cautionary tale. Her probation officer confirmed she had relocated to another state after her release, unable to return to the area due to the restraining order. One summer evening, as the Watsons enjoyed a sunset over Emerald Lake, John raised a glass with Emily. To family, resilience, and a future without Karen's, he joked. They both laughed, the sound carrying softly over the calm water. The ordeal had tested their patience and resolve, But in the end, it had strengthened their bond with their home and community. The cabin stood tall, a testament to their determination to protect what truly mattered.